Good evening, and welcome to Having a Drink with Mink. I'm your host, Jason Mink. Tonight, asking the musical question, how can you miss me if I won't go away? That is an excellent question, and one for another time, because hey, we got a lot of stuff to get to. But first, let me say, it's great to see you. Thank you for joining me this Friday night. It's been one heck of a week, so hey, cheers to you. All right, you'll notice I'm joined by some little friends. These are my Migos. They're hanging out in the fast food premium glasses that were given away in the 1970s. These were known as the Pepsi Moon glasses. In fact, they still are. As a kid, I had a number of these. My grandmother had even more. They were objects of intense fascination to me. It was sometimes one of the best things about going over to Grandma's was getting to drink out of the Aquaman glass. But I've picked up a few over the years, and, I always felt that as nice as they were a little space hog. But then one day I stuck my Migos in there, and I thought, hey, that works great. It's basically the peanut butter and chocolate of my childhood. So why they're here is because I just picked up the Robin glass. My local comic book shop, that's Ides Entertainment in downtown Pittsburgh, is having their 49th anniversary sale. And I picked up this beauty. Complements the other three very nicely. I actually picked up these Migos there as well. If you check out a past video, you'll see me restoring these from parts and pieces. But hey, enough about old toys. This is old guys who like old comics, right? So let's get to the old comics. Right off the bat, I was sent a mystery parcel by Barry Kenley, and I have no idea what's in here, obviously. That's what makes it a mystery. Stabby Joe is on the scene, and he's going to help us out. We're going to get into this puppy post-haste, and we're going to see, well, what it's all about, Alfie. Hey. What do you know? Comic books. Right off the bat, we got Daredevil, number 134. It's the Torpedo and his twin. And this is nice for all you back muscle aficionados out there. Very cool, Daredevil, number 134. I'm collecting the run. Don't think I have this one. So, very excited to add that to the archive. All right, Weird Wonder Tales, number 2. No, I beg you, don't take me in there. Not in there! Arby's has always gotten a bad rap, but, I kind of like them, to be honest with you. This is number 2. Very excited to check this out. I was kidnapped by a flying saucer. That looks like Gil Kane artwork to me. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then we have, the Avengers in part 1 of the Subterranean Wars. It all begins here, folks. So get on board. And then we have, Showcase. They're kooky, they're kicky, they're crazy. They're the Maniacs. It's a teen humor kind of thing, crossed with that inevitable DC squareness. Can't get away from that. And hey, it's even a checkerboard top. Very cool. And then, oh my. And then wrapping things up, we have this beautiful Deadman and the Challengers of the Unknowns. Period where DC was doing some very lovely gothic kind of covers. And that is spooky. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Barry. It's wonderful to get comics in the mail, especially comics that you weren't expecting. Cheers to you, my friend. But as you can see, well, gosh, there's some comics here, too. In the few weeks that I've been away, well, they piled up. So let's get right to them. We've got some coverless cuties right off the bat. We're going to bang through these bad boys. I know people. Not everyone's a fan of the coverless comic, but me, as a kid, I grew up with them. They were just part of my life. And when you have a splash page like that, sometimes you don't really need a cover. There's Benji cutting a rug with Alicia and Johnny egging him on. What fun. That's interesting. It's Alicia with black hair. Trying something a little new. You gotta mix it up, folks. You gotta keep things fresh. And then what do we have here? Tower of Shadows #2. And this is spiffy. This was back when Marvel was trying new stories in the horror anthologies. After a while, eventually they kind of defaulted to their Atlas reprints and stuff like that. But for a little while, back in the late 1960s, the early 1970s, you could get brand new stories from the House of Ideas. Very cool. Speaking of the House of Ideas, and death shall come. And once again, this comic may not have a cover, but it certainly does have a striking splash page. And that is some beautiful artwork by Gil Kane and inks by John Romita. Then we have Bucky Reborn. And there's Cap smashing the Red Skull. Pretty nice. Black Panther. Blood stains the virgin snow. And this is what 70s comics are all about, man. When they talk about comics being cinematic, this right here, pretty dynamite. I'd certainly like to get more of these. I know that they're very hot right now, so, I pick them up where I find them, but that was a great book. I've actually read a number of these, and, they really reinvigorated me. It made me want to talk to you about comics. There's good old Ben flying around in some kind of Kirby-esque contraption, the Thing and Iron Man together in The Stalker in the Sands. And somehow I didn't read that one, but I will get to it. Then we have The Mighty Soar. It's the Fourth Dimensional Man. And that's a lovely and striking splash page. And then here was a book that really gave me a charge. Spidey and the Punisher together to sow the seeds of Death's Day. I think this is only their second team-up. This is giant-sized Spider-Man #4, apparently, from 75. So that's pretty nifty. Yeah, it smells about 75-ish to me. And then we have Kamande #2. That's right. Back in the day, I could have picked these up with covers for 25 cents a piece, but Kirby Comics, well, they've heated up quite a bit, and so I just pick them up whenever I can find them. I have #1, a nice copy, with a cover, I must say, but I'll certainly throw this in the bag to go with it, just so I can keep enjoying that story. We covered Kamandi #1 on a previous Comics for Breakfast. Check that out at the link below. Larry? Thank you very much. Larry, ladies and gentlemen. Now, here's a book that I don't really know anything about. It's Freddy. Sort of your typical teener comic book from the late 50s, early 60s. But I was flipping through it, I wanted to see what it was all about. And I saw this. I have a good buddy, Earl Kime. If you're watching, good evening, Earl. I saw this story, Stretch McGinty, and I thought, oh man, if anyone out there would want to read the Stretch McGinty story, it'd be my good friend Earl. So it's here for you, Earl. Get on down to Pittsburgh. Stretch McGinty is waiting for you. And then, wrapping things up as far as the coverless comic books go, we have this. I wasn't quite sure what it was at first. Ape Comics. That's the fun thing about these coverless books, is sometimes if you're not familiar with them, they have that weird dreamlike quality. They feel like something that you had as a kid, but you flip through it. Things are oddly familiar, but yet not quite the same. Next up, we have some Archies. Oh, yeah, baby. And if I'm talking Archie, we're going to have a little bit of Midge in there. And there's Reggie making a little bit of time with my gal, and Moose is ready to pound his head in. All right, I'm right there with you, Moose. Stay away from our gal, Reggie. Then we have Archie's Christmas Stocking, and I dig these. These are a lot of fun. I don't really have a traditional Christmas much these days, whenever it rolls around. So it's really nice to be able to join the gang at Riverdale and get a little bit of that Christmas experience. Next up, we have Archie's Joke Book, and this is a dynamite cover. Then we have Archie's Joke Book, number 110. And hey, it's one of those infamous slumber party covers, and you just know that Midge making the scene, looking rather modest for a change. Oh, Midgey, what are we going to do with you? Then we have Archie's Joke Book, and this is a case of a comic book that popped up in the group the other day. I saw this book, and I thought, oh, man, that's a great book. Really need a copy of that. So I went and I picked myself up a copy of it when I found it for cheap, and then it turned out, well, I already had a copy of it. Ain't that always the way? Didn't have this one, though. Then what do we got here? Archie's Madhouse. And hey, Jughead is joining us and having a drink this evening. Excellent work. And then Archie's Pals and Gals. Oh, I'm starting to sense a trend here. It's another Midge cover. This one, a knockout beach bikini cover. And once again, you think Reggie would have developed some sort of third eye in the back of his head by now, for as often as Moose is coming his way to give him a beatdown. And here we have A Life with Archie. And that's Archie as, what is his name? Pureheart. Captain Pureheart? Captain Purell? Oh, Pureheart the Powerful. Puerile. Captain Puerile. Perhaps that would be me. And then what do we have here? Sabrina the Teenage Witch. And this is a interesting looking little book here. Sabrina shopping for a used vehicle. Well, we've all been there, haven't we, folks? Up, what do we have? It's ARG! And you could be forgiven for thinking that that would be a pirate-based comic, but it's actually a humor, horror, satire kind of thing. Early Mad style comic. This is a lot of fun. Read it the other day. Some fantastic Tom Sutton stories and artwork in here. Very much of their time, but very atmospheric, very cool. And I hope to look at this on a future Comics for Breakfast. Halloween is coming up, folks. Get those candies ready. And what do we have here? Billy the Kid! And ordinarily I'm not a big Western guy, but this is an All Severn issue. That's right, the same guy who was doing that 8 spoof comic a while back contributes art to this. And I was also flipping through this, and the writing on this is hilarious, so certainly hope to focus that on that in the near future. Then we have the Blue Beetle. This is the Modern Comics reprint, but always happy to pick one of these up with some beautiful Steve Ditko art in there. And who is the question? Maybe we'll find out in this issue. If you're good, maybe Steve will tell you. And then what next? Now, here's an interesting book. I gotta say, a lot of folks, well, they'd walk right by something like this. It's been taped together, really myrtleized, obviously, had a hard life. But when I saw this book, it spoke to me, because it obviously meant enough to someone to attempt to fix it. As amateurish a job as they did, by now the tape itself is ancient, but it's a fascinating artifact. It's part of what I love about old comics is the fact that they are, in fact, a time capsule. And who's smiling now? Well, that would be me, of course. At 50 cents, well, I just had to add it to the, I got a box of comics. Mike Jones will tell you, my shitty comics, and that should fit right in there. And then next up, in the not shitty comics box, these are my high-end treats for when Daddy had a good day. It's Crime and Punishment. And this is a knockout cover. Charles Biro, my favorite crime cover guy. And this is a nice moody cover right here. Quite like that. 52 pages. It's a full-size mag. Expect nothing less from your news dealer, folks. If they try and beat you with one of those, 32-page crime comics, well, you tell Rocco down the street and he'll fix him, but good. Next up, Fantasy Masterpieces number 6. And these are quite choice because they reprint those Atlas superhero stories. We have Captain America, as well as some spooky creatures, big germs, lions, shirtless men. Some of those things might be more or less frightening to you, depending on, your personal preference. But this is dynamite. Then we have number 8, Fantasy Masterpieces. And what a cover, man. I could see pestering Mom for a quarter to buy this. That alone, very epic. The Torch battling Namor as he wrestles the support beam from a train track. Wowie zowie. And then we got 2 issues of the Fightin' Navy. Why? Because I just like the covers. Sometimes you roll the dice. Sometimes you take a chance. You never quite know. Take a lucky dip. Mike Jones had come into town a few weeks back, and we went to Ides, stopped on down there, and he picked himself up some comics. Somehow he picked up 2 copies of the same comic, in fact, and he was nice enough to hook me up with this. It's Hulk number 112, The Brute Battles On. And I read this. This has some dynamite artwork in it. It's a fun story for sure. It would have been very cool to see the Hulk continue on in that direction, more space-bound adventures as opposed to always bringing him back to Earth. And then what do we have here? Oh, Jimmy Olsen. That's right. It's an 80-page giant. And this one features, some fairly vanilla stories. Sometimes you get the good ones like Jimmy turning into a werewolf or, some kind of, a turtle monster. But this one, you got stuff like the Human Skyscraper and Pinocchio Jimmy. But for $1, I figured, what the hell? I'm going to throw in. That's just the kind of guy I am. Then we have a couple Luke Cage, Hero for Hire. Now, these are definitely reader copies. I don't have a problem with that because I'm only looking to read the comic, you know what I mean? I definitely don't need mint condition copies of everything. It's always nice to have really nice comics, but for me growing up, my comics were always in various states of well appreciated, and I find that that's how I appreciate them today. So cheers. Your mileage may vary, but we can certainly agree to disagree. Next up, we have Marvel Collector's Item Classics. And once again, definitely a very readery copy. I'm not quite sure what happened here. It looks like it was under an automobile exhaust for a while. But to be able to enjoy these stories in perhaps the first time they were reprinted ever, you're still getting that vintage comic book experience without paying that steep price. There's a nice little book right here. A little bit later on in the Fantastic Four's reprint career, it's Marvel's Greatest Comics. Next up, Marvel Tales number 40. And I'm a Marvel Tales collector, and I was thrilled to be able to pick this one up inexpensively and add it to my run. As soon as I get them all, I'm going to sit down and read them from end to end, and I'll report back to you, the viewer. And then we have Marvel Triple Action number 3. Now, Marvel Triple Action, Marvel Super Action, Marvel Tales, these were comic books that haunted dollar bins for decades. But getting a nice early copy, this is number 3 of Marvel Triple Action, and this is, I guess, like the penultimate chapter, and the Dr. Doom stealing the Silver Surfer's powers. It never really occurred to me why this was called Marvel Triple Action. It's because you're getting Dr. Doom, the Fantastic Four, and the Silver Surfer. That was the rationale. Eventually, you didn't necessarily get 3 things, but, and it's weird because the Inhumans are in here too, so surely that's 4 things, but Marvel quadruple action, well, maybe they knew that was a bar that was they're setting too high right from the jump. Then we have a Marvel 2-in-1, The Thing and Daredevil. These are always fun. Just those nice mid-period Marvels, you know what I mean? It's like nothing outrageous is going to happen. They're going to be one and done, but it's exciting to see the heroes team up. And hey, how's Daredevil going to get out of that one, huh? And then we have a coverless copy of Nyoka the Jungle Girl, but I couldn't pass it up. What a deal. $3, 40% off. That's right. And then, it's Scary Tales. And that is a dynamite cover by Tom Sutton. I'm a big Tom Sutton fan, and these Charltons are a great way of getting his work very inexpensively. And, man alive, that's some freaky stuff. If you like Lovecraft, if you like 70s horror, Tom Sutton is definitely an artist worth checking out. And I like Creatures of the Sea, and that's why I picked up Skull the Slayer. And, hey, this guy, pretty scary. But I'm guessing with a little tartar sauce, a wedge of lemon, he'd be delicious. So let's hope that things work out for Skull there. And then, speaking of Charlton, we have Space Adventures, and that is a lovely, moody cover from Steve Ditko. Very, very nice. And then we have a giant Superman annual. We got some fun stuff here. We got Samson. We got the first Supergirl. The one that they colored in orange and green because they didn't want to confuse the readers. Gosh knows. Super Jimmy Olsen. And it's Mighty Boy and Mighty Dog. All right. Well, I'm definitely excited now. Need Grant Morrison to bring them back. And then I was happy to pick this up. This was $1. Proudly presents DC's Swamp Thing Saga, and this is number 1, 48-page classic. Very nice. I may even have it, but for $1, how could I pass it by? Makes excellent trade bait. And then speaking of grotty old comics, back in the day they used to rip the titles off and send them back for credit, and these were supposed to be destroyed, but my dad actually worked in a warehouse where they performed this process and then repackaged the books and sent them out, 3 for $1. So to me, once again, while it's brutal to see a comic that's all torn up like this, it would never stop me from reading the gosh darn thing. This is a nice early issue of Tales of Suspense. And then you can still get old comics in a new form. These Marvel True Believers. This was $1, and this reprints the first appearance of Havoc, and that's some lovely Neil Adams artwork. Oh, but that's not all, my friends. I know you're saying, Mink, come on. What an episode. What could you possibly have to show us? Well, I held back my worst comic and my best comic for last. So I got a little bit of drink left. I hope you have some to sustain us through these last few moments. Right off the bat, we'll start with the worst comic. Now, I did not pay for this. This book was basically being thrown away, and I rescued it. It's Fantastic Four. Now, this is, what is it? Annual number 5? No, King Size Special number 5, featuring the Inhumans, the Black Panther. This is terrifying, to be honest with you. This is positively Lovecraftian in its levels of horror, but, I simply had to rescue it. I would hate to think that any old comic would end up in the garbage, even one in such a traumatic state. This will be separated from the archives. It'll be kept somewhere safe. It has a home here amongst the old guys who like old comics. And, see, I'm even setting it over there. And wrapping things up, my best purchase of the buying run and probably of the year. This is Crime Does Not Pay, number 52. and with a dynamic Charles Biro cover. One of the goriest things that, well, I'd ever seen in a comic book. I was blown away when I saw this. Am I getting a glare, Larry? When I saw this initially, but I didn't have the cash to pull the trigger, and then I went, and it was actually waiting for me. So I picked it up, and definitely one of my nicest comics, certainly one of my oldest. It's in great condition. I can't wait to read this because I'm just nutty for those crime comics. Absolutely. And man alive, that is visceral. All right, well, hey, thank you for joining me. I'm Jason Mink. I'm not sure when I'll be seeing you again, but rest assured, I will. I will see you again. Cheers, my friends.